We need to have a very serious conversation about online censorship right now. Over the weekend, a madman, an insane man named Muhammad, gathered together a car full of Molotov cocktails and in Denver, Colorado, and proceeded to firebomb American Jews. He saw American Jews waving the American flag on American soil, being patriotic, but being Jews. And Muhammad decided he wanted to burn them alive. Now, we don't really need to sit here and have a debate about this guy, this terrorist, this awful, awful excuse for a piece of filth of humanity. He sucks. That's a given. But we do need to have a serious conversation about all of the people in all of the online platforms, X, Twitch, YouTube, Reddit, all of them, that have been actively promoting exactly this for months and years now, openly and freely, with almost zero censorship. I mean, almost none at all. We need to have a conversation about all the people that have been promoting this sort of event, because these are not isolated events. We are seeing an increasing number of people being murdered, being attacked, being shot, being firebombed, etc., because they are American Jews, or people think they might be Jews or Jew adjacent. And there are individuals on both the left and the right in the political spectrum who have been advocating for this. They have been vilifying Jews. They have been encouraging violence against Jews directly and explicitly. And then when the violence occurs, we need to sit back and say, okay, did those people, did their words, did their encouragement of the violence, did their praising of the violence, did that in any way lead to those deaths? Because if the answer is yes, well, we've got some legal ramifications there, at least in the United States. And we need to have a very, really moral and ethical issues. And we need to have a discussion about those issues right now. Asmongold, the famous streamer, he brought this up over on X, and I'm glad he did. He said, quote, "Y'all really need to get on top of some of those people online. They promote this beep and nothing ever happens to them." He's replying to the FBI director, Kash Patel. Reddit, TikTok, etc. Rationalizations for violence like this are everywhere online. And he's right. And it's not just rationalizations for violence. It's not just excusing violence. It's often openly advocating for violence. We have people like on the right, we have people like Jake Shields, Lucas Gage. There's people on left and right. We've got Jackson Hinkle, we've got the Tate, we've got Nick Fuentes and Stu Peters. And if you don't know who a lot of these people are, thank your lucky stars. But there's a lot of them. And they are openly advocating for the violence, for the exact kind of violence that we saw this weekend that results in American citizens being lit on fire with the American flag trampled to the ground, and a monster named Muhammad gloating over them, proud of his acts. For example, here's Jackson Hinkle over on X. Drop a like if you're an American who supports Hamas. Palestine has an unconditional right to armed resistance in the face of this genocidal occupation. Now, he's talking about Israel. Israel's not a genocidal occupation. Up until that October 7th event, Israel didn't even occupy any of Gaza, but that's a whole nother issue entirely. But he's openly saying he supports a terrorist organization. That's not an opinion. If you're an American citizen, Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's officially designated a terrorist organization. Hamas's official charter declared that their goal, their chief goal, above almost everything, above even the lives of their children, is to murder all Jews. That's not an exaggeration. That's their words. Hunt them down behind every tree, under every rock, their charter said. And there's Jackson Hinkle, showing hundreds of thousands of people, hey, hit a like if you support Hamas. Of course, thousands of people hit that like button. So he's having an effect. Actively promoting an organization which the United States government has declared a terrorist organization. That means Jackson Hinkle is giving real material support to a known and established terrorist organization within the United States. Jackson Hinkle should be in jail, according to U.S. law. There's Lucas Gage. Every supporter of Israel, he says, is a terrorist. We aren't friends, we are enemies. The only space a Zionist should be found is in a ditch. So Lucas Gage is out there, and he says this sort of stuff constant basis. He's out there declaring that if someone supports Israel having a homeland, if someone supports Jews having a homeland, having a safe place to go, they need to be killed and abandoned in a ditch just for simply kind of supporting it. This is the kind of encouragement to violence that these people promote actively. Here's Jake Shields, the amazing Jake Shields, a Zionist. So his quote is, "A Zionist fakes an attack on himself. Have you ever seen people lie like they do every time a Jew gets killed by someone who spouts the exact same sort of propaganda that Jake Shields puts online every day? Jake Shields hops on X to say, didn't happen. Oh, those dirty Jews think they're victims just because we're murdering them all the time and lighting them on fire. Geez, way to play the victims, Jews," and attacks them nonstop. This goes on and on and on. If you want a constant, steady stream of examples, look up Stu Peters, Nick Fuentes, Tate, all these guys. I don't care what you want to call them. I truly don't. Some people label them woke right. I don't know if that's the right term or not. And honestly, I don't even care. All I care about is the fact that these people are just pure evil. And here's the crazy thing. And we really do need to think about this. Everyone, no matter who you are, okay, maybe not everyone, but most people view themselves as not the villain in their story, right? Some people view themselves as the hero in their story. Some people view themselves as the victim in their story. But people have a tendency to not view themselves as the villain, right? Now, in hindsight, it's much easier to look back at a story and say, okay, well, those guys over there, those guys were the bad guys, those guys were the good guys, those guys were the victims. It's easier in hindsight to declare that. So I'm guessing these folks, Jake Shields and Hinkle and Gage and Peters and Fuentes, all these folks, they don't probably view themselves as the villain. They view themselves as either some sort of weird victim or a hero, or maybe a combination of the two. But regardless, they're out there daily. I mean, it's a steady stream, talking to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people constantly every day, and getting a lot of support, telling people explicitly the only space a Zionist should be found is in a ditch, and support rah all these known terrorists as long as they're killing Jews. Am I right? And it's not just the right, though. There were several examples in there of people who more identify as right-wing. They get kind of lumped into this woke right group, groypers, and a lot of different words for them. But it's also leftists. If you go on to a large number of leftist-dominated online sites like TikToks and Reddits and Mastodons, oh my heavens, it's just filled with this stuff. The language that they all use is a little different. If you look at the leftist extremist versus the woke right, the language is not exactly the same, but the general idea is the same. Jews are bad. Sometimes they don't use the word Jew. Sometimes they use the word Zionist or Zio whatever or Israeli or things like that. But when you really sit down and start asking them questions, in every case I have ever seen, it always boils down to what they're talking about is Jews. And in this case, American Jews, Jews who wave the American flag, Jews who serve in the American military, Jews who are members of elected office, Jews who pick up the garbage and are firefighters. I mean, just American Jews. And they want them dead. And a common tactic that's heavily promoted by the leftist activist is firebombing, Molotov cocktails. Here, just as a couple of examples, and there's a ton of them. Here's one of the founders of Netscape and Mozilla. His name is Jamie Zawinski. He now runs a bar and a nightclub in San Francisco. But he was one of the founders of Mozilla and Netscape. He advocates, and he's posted about this stuff a few different times. He advocates openly for using Molotov cocktails as a means of political statements, right? So if you don't like someone or something politically, get a Molotov cocktail and light them on fire. He openly advocates for that. And he's not the only one. There's tech journalists. The editor of over at osnews.com has gone out there stating that that if you don't like some of the car someone drives, get a Molotov cocktail. They're cheap to make and toss it at the car. Light them on fire. Firebomb, man. This sort of thing happens over and over again. And we have to sit back and decide for ourselves on each of these given websites, right? X, YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, any of them, Twitch. Where's the line? When do these people that are, they're vilifying individuals, they're vilifying groups of people, they're dehumanizing them, they're telling their followers that those people need to die, specifically, repeatedly, over and over and over again, like a chant, like a religious chant. They need to die, kill them, punch a fascist, blah, 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 kill the Zionist, over and over and over again. It's a constant repeated refrain. And then the violence occurs repeatedly now, increasingly. And these people don't come out and condemn the violence. Not at all. Do I have a picture of this here? Oh, I don't know if I have a picture of it here, but there's literally people that since this latest round over the weekend of violence occurred have hopped onto their various social media platforms to either say that it's the Jews' fault because they got hit with Molotov cocktails. That's a very real thing that a lot of these people are doing, or just avoiding the topic entirely, which is unusual for them because they love every chance to talk about how Jews are evil. They just love those chances, except for making statements like, and I saw this one promoted by a director of the Gnome Foundation. Director of the Gnome Foundation came out and was resharing statements that, it's Pride Month. So if you see someone committing some acts of civil disobedience, just maybe look the other way during Pride Month, because it's Pride Month. Now, that literally those statements were made within hours of the firebombing of people in Denver, Colorado. It's hard not to see the connection. So when should they be censored? Right? I mean, it's a reasonable question. Should we draw a hard line? Because I'm a bit of a free speech extremist. I like even bad ideas. I prefer them to see the light of day because I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And if people have bad ideas, expose them. Show everyone how horrible that is. Let them speak out and let people disagree with them if they want to. That said, these individuals are having noticeable effect. They are causing people to die. American citizens right? So all of these people, Stu Peters, Nick Fuentes, Tate, Jackson Hinkle, Lucas Gage, Jake Shields, all of these groypers and woke right people and whatnot, they have blood on their hands. I'm sorry, they do. They've advocated for murder repeatedly in a chanted refrain and almost a religious passion, like that's their religion, publicly until the murders happen. And they did not condemn the murders. Very rarely. Very few of these people have come out and said, "Ooh, that's bad. Don't kill people like that." Most of them have come out and said, "Oh, sure, some stupid Jews die. Now I bet there's going to be censorship. Stupid Jews dying. That's why there's censorship. You suck, Jews." Literally. That was like the first post Nick Fuentes put up there. He's like, "Great. Probably a false flag anyway. Stupid burning Jews." So what do we do though? Now, all of these online platforms, they're not government run. So the reality is these are not true First Amendment issues, right? Unless we perceive one or more of them as the de facto government, society, town square, where everyone has a right to be heard on it, unless we establish that. These are all corporate run, privately owned publishing platforms, and the people who run them have every right to decide who is on them and who is not. I mean, shoot, during the Biden administration, I got kicked off of Twitter. This is literally why I got kicked off of Twitter. There was during a Pride Month, I don't know, 2 years or something like that into the Biden administration, there was a Pride parade in Seattle where a bunch of older than me gentlemen were walking around without pants on. So their stuff was hanging free. And they were standing and dancing and gyrating in front of a group of like 5-year-old kids. And there was pictures and video of this being posted to X. And I just simply commented. I made a comment to X. And I'm like, look, technically this is illegal. If you expose yourself to a minor, whether you like Pride, whether you like trans or LGBTQ issues or whatnot, it was really kind of irrelevant. If you expose yourself to a minor, particularly in a sexual way, which this was, that is both a state crime and a federal crime, and there's very significant repercussions that come along with that. I wonder if anything will be done. That post caused my Twitter account to get suspended and then within minutes deleted. Literally, Twitter nuked my Twitter account from orbit. It was gone before I had like a brief window. It was, I don't know, minutes, maybe a couple hours, I don't know, something like that. But I had a brief window where Twitter was like, if you delete this and you'll just have like a 30-day suspension or something like that. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, should I delete that? Should I just leave it up and let them suspend me on principle? I don't know. And then they made up my mind for me by just deleting my account. I had to start over. But Twitter was a privately held company. Now, obviously, Twitter was suppressing my speech. They were censoring me. Now, was I in the right there? Of course I was. I was just taking a stand, saying what the law said. And I was correct about it. And I was being moral and decent about it. And Twitter was taking a very weird stance. But it kind of was their right to do so. It was their platform. It was my right to complain about it. It was my right to say they were taking away my speech on their platform and censoring me, because they were. But it wasn't really a free speech First Amendment issue at that point. Now we have a semi-similar issue here with a couple of key differences. Right now, we've got a large number of people. There are probably a good couple dozen accounts in particular on each of these platforms, including Reddit and X and YouTube and Twitch and all of them, that have been actively encouraging violence, right? Now, if you encourage violence and that violence then occurs, that is a crime, right? So now we're getting into the realm of these people have committed a crime. Now, if I'm running X, if I'm running Reddit or Twitch or whatever, and people are committing crimes on my platform, I don't want anything to do with that. I obviously want them gone. So if I'm a business operator, I kick all these people off. Completely, fully lifetime ban. Nick Fuentes, Stu Peters, Lucas Gage, Jake Shields, all of them. All of the leftist activists that have been advocating for firebombing, gone. The Jake Shields and Lucas Gages and Hinkles who have been advocating for the murder of Jews, gone. Just gone, right? From a business standpoint, right? From just a pure, reasonable, I'm running a business standpoint, they need to be gone. Otherwise, the platform itself is put into potential legal jeopardy. Now, there's a couple of laws that currently exist in the United States that could protect the platforms from legal action because of the actions of those on the platform a little bit. Many of those laws, the Section 230 stuff, etc., there is some uncertainty about. There is some wiggle room, and there are currently things that are changing about those laws. The companies that run these sites like X and YouTube, they know that. And if I were them, I would not want to take those risks. I just wouldn't. Not even for the relatively sizable, not huge, but decently big audiences that many of these people bring around. But then there's also the moral issues, the ethical issues, the am I a good person or not issues. If you're building a platform to allow people to communicate, and a small subset, because it's really small, I mean, there's a lot of them, but, you know, by and large, by the grand scheme of things, they're a small percentage. A small percentage of people are using it in a way where they're encouraging death. They're encouraging physical violence. They're not saying, yeah, my team, go team. No, they're saying flat out, the only good Jew is a dead Jew. The only good Zionist is the one you find in a ditch. Get your Molotov cocktails out. They're cheap, right? They're doing things that are, I believe, 99+% of all humans in the United States, certainly, are going to look at that and say, well, this is just evil stuff. Do you, as the person or the people that run these platforms, want it on your conscience when you go to bed at night, knowing that you are not just spreading gross stuff, you're not just spreading hatred, but you may have helped facilitate the events that directly led to the murders of innocent people, to the firebombing of Jews by Muhammad, to the gunning down of people who were standing a little close to an Israeli flag or a Star of David. I don't think they do. Whether they're on the left or on the right, I don't think the people that run these platforms want that on their conscience. And I know I wouldn't. I couldn't handle it. I would not be able to feel okay about myself knowing that I had some weird small part to play in providing people like Gage and Shields and Hinkles and Fuentes and Peters and all these other just gross human beings with the opportunity to rile up deranged lunatics into committing murder and arson and awfulness. So here we are, people who actively promote freedom of speech, open dialogue amongst all ideas, and we're really left with a very serious discussion to have. And I know many of you out there are very libertarian in your views. And boy, do I sympathize with those views. And I know a lot of you out there are very leftist. There's a lot of leftists though that really do actually watch the Lunduke Journal. A lot of them kind of hate watch the Lunduke Journal, but you watch it, and I love you all just the same. But no matter what political party you're a member of, or where you sit on the little axis chart of politically whateverness, I don't think that most of us are okay with what's happening right now, and it's escalating. At whatever we do at this point is going to have an impact going forward. And our choices are fairly simple and straightforward. And I think Asmongold is correct that something has to be done here. That the federal government and the state governments need to get on top of working with these online publishing platforms like X and Reddit and TikTok and everything else to begin censoring and silencing these people on those platforms. Now, I'm not saying that those people should not be allowed on the internet. Of course, they have every right to speak their mind wherever anyone wants to hear it, right? But if we've decided, if the people who run, say, X or YouTube decide we don't want to hear it here, well, that's that. And they can go somewhere else. They can go to Gab, or they can spin up their own Fediverse Mastodon server, or whatever they want to do. And when that happens, if that happens, and I think it is about to happen in bulk to a lot of these people, they're going to scream from the rooftops that they have been silenced by the Jews. Which is crazy. That's what they're going to scream just the same. In fact, me putting this out here, just simply thinking this through, saying what I think I do, it's a difficult conundrum. It's a difficult situation to be in. For me at least. Simply thinking about this and talking about this and showing you the things that they say. Oh, they'll attack me for that. Oh, that dirty, dirty, nerdy Jew. He just wants to censor us all. The reality is that's the last thing I want to do. I want to stand up and fight for the right of people who are truly repulsive to speak their mind. Many years back, there was a website called Stormfront. And boy, do they hate people like me. Just to give you the general idea, people like me, Der Juden, they weren't too thrilled with me, right? So I am like, they just hate me. They want me dead, right? Just awful. They published articles, and I tell you, I don't know that I ever read an article on their site where I thought, well, that was rational and well thought out. Like I just disagreed with all of it, right? It was just awful. But they got heavily censored, the Stormfront site did. But not in the usual way. In that particular case, it wasn't a matter of them being kicked off Twitter or YouTube or something like that. In that case, they were being refused the ability to have a DNS entry, right? Their domain name was being revoked by multiple registrars to the point where Google was refusing to resolve the DNS for their website. And when I saw that really caught me off guard a bit. Because at a certain point, it goes from being, well, I'm controlling my platform and I don't want to be legally liable for the things you say. And I find the things you say so repugnant. I don't want them on my platform that I run. So I'm going to ban you from my platform. And I can support that. But then this censorship that was occurring of Stormfront, this was many years ago, was saying, we don't want them on the internet. Like, we don't want to allow these people on the internet. That was corporations saying, don't let them online. Don't let them have a website. Even if they host the gosh darn thing in their garage, they can't have a domain name, right? And I mean, come on. Once you strip the ability to even have a domain name, they're not on social media. They can't have a domain name. They have to host the server in the garage. I'm like, okay, I get not wanting to host their server. I get not wanting them to be on your corporate run Reddit or whatever. That's fine. But saying they couldn't have a domain name, I was like, oh man, really? That just seems too far to me. And so I spoke out about that at the time. I'm like, look, I hate these guys. They're awful. But, people should be able to speak their mind. We don't have to listen. We don't have to host them. We don't have to platform them or any of that sort of thing. But people should be able to speak their minds to who want to listen, even if their ideas are gross. But we don't have to listen to it. So what we're dealing with here is not annihilating people off the internet, right? It's not more than deplatforming. It is literally just deplatforming. And it's a tough situation to be in. So we need to think this through. We need to be open and honest in talking about this. And my personal opinion, I know this is going long, but there's a lot to say here. My personal opinion is that these individuals, many of them, should probably be removed entirely from X, from YouTube, from Reddit, from Twitch, from TikTok, from all of them, both to protect those corporate interests. I mean, I don't. If I were the board of directors or investors, I would demand it, and just simply to to protect doing good in the world. I mean, these are not good people. They are. I know they probably don't view themselves, like I said before, as the villain in their own story. But in my story, they are. They're the villain. In the story of all these corporate platforms, they're the villain. In the story of the United States, they're the villain. So we get to decide, do we want to let the villains dictate what gets talked about? Do we allow Voldemort and Sauron to say, you know what? You have to listen to everything we say. You have to put us on a pedestal. You have to allow us on all your platforms to talk in your open markets. Oh, there's a street corner in Gondor. You have to let Sauron stand in the middle of your street corner and rally people up to go commit murder. You have to let us do that. Like, no, you don't. You really don't. The good guys are the good guys. The bad guys are the bad guys. And we don't have to let our online spaces be filled with just bad guys. And I'm going to say flat out, these are bad guys. They're calling for murder. So there we go. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for allowing me to go on this rather long tangential rant. And thank you for allowing me to cover all of the big tech companies and everything else without having to worry about censorship. And I publish to a huge number of platforms because the reality is I know that even though I like what I'm saying, many of the publishers of these other platforms, Locals, Rumble, X, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, Spotify, etc., Fountain, iTunes, all of them, they may one day decide they don't like what I'm saying. And they may censor and silence me on one of their platforms. And that's their call. And it will be my choice to criticize them for it. But ultimately, it does end up their call to do that. And I may criticize it. I probably would. I probably will. But they get to do that. And I know YouTube has certainly censored me plenty in the past, and I know it will happen again. So I publish to all manner of different platforms to make sure that when one platform, two platforms, heck, even 4 or 5 platforms decide we're going to censor Lunduke, fine. The Lunduke Journal continues. I still get to continue publishing because I publish to such a wide variety of platforms. So if you go to lunduke.com, there's links all over there of tons of different ways that you can support and listen and watch and read and interact all with the Lunduke Journal. It's just a good strategy. It just is. Because realistically, these are corporate platforms we publish to. These are not government run. So when they censor me, most of the time, it's not a First Amendment issue. Most of the time, it's just going to be I'm annoyed with them and they're annoyed with me. Most of the time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.